ROI, return on investment. Perhaps you've heard this phrase before. What is the return on investment? If you have an investment portfolio or make a contribution, you want to know what your return is going to be, what you're going to get in exchange. Have you ever thought about what your ROI is of following Jesus? What do we get out of believing in God, about seeking to live a God-like life? A book I read early on in my faith journey and reread in seminary, The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He looks not just at the benefits, but also the cost. What do we give up? What does it cost us to follow Jesus? There's definitely a give and a take. Today in our worship service, Pastor JiSun is going to look at a challenging passage in which Jesus talks to his disciples both about the return, but also the cost of following him. But of course, no cost that we pay is not worth the rewards, the eternal love, the transformation, and all that God does in our life. I invite you in this space to consider the return and the cost of following Jesus. Let's unite our voices and our hearts and let the worship team lead us as we worship God together.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never this promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, oh. And you say I am alone when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong, though I know I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. You say I am yours, and I believe what you say. Is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, oh, and you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. And you say taking all I have, and now I'm laying them at your feet. And you'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. You
It's September. Kids are going back to school. But after 2 years of a pandemic, we've all learned something about hardship. What did you learn during the pandemic?
To stay home.
I learned how to teach my dog how to sit.
Adding.
To be safe.
I can count all the way to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
What was something fun you did over the pandemic that you still do today?
Probably the pool.
Staying at home.
23, 24, 25, 26.
By now, everyone has heard of post-traumatic stress. But have you heard of post-traumatic growth? It is now understood that people can experience significant personal and spiritual growth after experiencing a crisis or hardship. Are you excited to go back to school?
31, 32, 33.
Yes!
Yes.
Yeah!
Be ready to take notes as together we explore when crisis takes us back to school.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Haddonfield United Methodist Church, and particular to our on-demand worship service. I am delighted that you have found this service. Hopefully you join us weekly, and we hope that you'll share this service. We created this service a little over a year ago, particularly for folks who are local or not in the South Jersey area who wanted to find time to worship or strengthen your own faith journey anytime throughout the week, not just Sunday morning. Of course, we have worship in this space on Sundays, but if you're with us on a Saturday or Tuesday or whatever day of the week, we are grateful for you, and we're grateful you're part of this worshiping community. We are about to go into a brand new program year. Next weekend, particularly September 11th, we are going to kick off a brand new year with a new sermon series called When Crisis Takes Us Back to School. We're going to have blessing of backpacks for our kids who are in this space. Any child who's going back to school, we invite to come to our 9 or our 10:30 worship service. Bring a backpack or a stuffed animal or a book and lay it on our altar table, and we're going to bless our children and their backpacks for a new year. And we're going to give them a tag to take with them so they know they're loved by God and by our church. Also, on Kickoff Sunday, we're going to be handing out shopping bags, reusable shopping bags, not only to help you as you go grocery shopping, but also to remind you to pick up food for our Cherry Hill Food Pantry collection. We're going to hand out shopping lists. So if you're in the area, stop by the building anytime after September 11th and pick up a reusable shopping bag. And remember to grab some items for others to help them to stomp out hunger and food insecurity. Today, as we worship virtually wherever you may be, your gift is important, both as an offering to God, also to help us continue this ministry and our other ministries. So you'll find a number, text the word GIVE to the number on your screen. You can always go to haddonfieldumc.org and go to the Give button, give online or mail a check to the church, and help us to continue to be in vital ministry. I'm grateful that you're here. Let's continue in worship through the proclamation of the word by Pastor JiSun.
Have you ever heard that life is C between B and D? In other words, the life we live in is the C, a series of choices between B, birth, and D, death. It would be hard to estimate how many choices we make in a day, but some sources suggest that the average adult makes more than 35,000 decisions per day, and while children make 3,000 decisions. It is much higher than I thought, but it makes sense if we think about our daily lives from the morning when we open our eyes to the moment when we go to sleep at night. When we wake up, first, we make a choice to open our eyes or not. We make a choice to turn off our alarm and get up, or hit the snooze button to have a few more minutes of sleep. We make a choice regarding what to eat, what to wear, and what to drink. If you are a coffee drinker, it might be a no-brainer to turn on your coffee machine. Much of our morning routines might be already decided for us, depending on our life situation. Up to the point when we are ready to leave our home, we would have already made lots of choices. Of course, some decisions are more important than others. For instance, what major you'd like to choose in your college education is much more important than what kind of food would you like to have for your lunch today? However, have we ever felt that making decision is not always easy, whether it's small or big? Have we ever wondered why? And I think making a decision means we choose one over the other, and that means we give up the other things that we do not pick. When I worked in a company in South Korea, I used to go out for lunch, and one of my go-to places was Korean Chinese restaurant, especially when I didn't have enough time to eat because they serve the food so quickly. But did you know that Korean Chinese foods are different from authentic Chinese food? The most popular and basic food in Korean Chinese restaurant are black noodles and spicy noodles, but you cannot find them in China as they are uniquely developed in South Korea based on authentic Chinese food. It is always a big dilemma to choose one noodle over the other, so someone invented a half and half bowl in the early 2000s, and now almost all Korean Chinese restaurants have a new item on the menu, a combination of black noodles and spicy noodles. It was a perfect solution for many people who were indecisive and wanted to have both at the same time. This is one of the interesting examples in Korean culture reflecting our human desire, not wanting to give up anything at the moment. Probably I can have another menu tomorrow that I didn't choose today, but I just could not give up the chance to have both. Following Jesus is a much bigger decision than what we want to eat for our lunch today, because it's our lifetime commitment. In fact, it's our lifetime calling. But sometimes we tend to overlook what it really means and what it would cost to follow Jesus. So today I want us to think about the cost of discipleship as we go deeper to the text given to us today in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verses 25 through 33. It says, "Now large crowds were traveling with him, and he turned and said to them, 'Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, "This fellow began to build and was not able to finish." Or what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So, therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions. In this text, Jesus taught about the cost of discipleship to people who are traveling with him. Interestingly, the term cost appears only once in the New Testament in this passage. Probably many of them were drawn to him because of what Jesus provided, including the healing they experienced or witnessed, profound teaching to feed their souls, miraculous food to meet their physical needs, or some of them came to him out of curiosity. But they were not Jesus' disciples yet who put their faith in their daily lives. And Jesus invited them to count the cost first about discipleship, because it would not be a highway guaranteed to be successful in life or fixing all the problems they had. Today's text contains many negative connotations as we see does not, cannot, will not, or you are not. It sounds like Jesus was trying to exclude people, but it was not at all. Jesus' words here are not a warning to cast away people if they were not ready to follow him. Rather, he urged the people to make their own choices, to live their lives fully in obedience to God, not blindly. 3 times in this passage, Jesus says that without definite decisions, a person cannot be his disciples. First, whoever does not hate parents, children, spouse, siblings, and even one's own life cannot be his disciples. As hate is a strong word, we try not to use it. In fact, when I was a children's minister, if I say something like, I hate to ask, children came to me, Pastor, it's not a good word. Please do not use it. But Jesus said, whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. It is troubling and controversial because the 5th commandment in Moses' 10 Commandments is to honor your father and mother. Jesus says, I don't come to abolish Moses' laws, but fulfill the laws. And also one of the greatest commandments summing up Jewish laws is to love your neighbors as yourself. It includes our families. There is no space for hatred at all in Jesus' life and ministry and teaching. But why does he say here that if we do not hate our families, whom we love the most and care for the most, we cannot be his disciples? I think we should remember that the original Greek word does not carry the same meaning as the English word hate carries, like intense hostility and aversion. The Greek word means to renounce one choice in favor of another. The Message Bible translation says, anyone who comes to me but refuses to let go of father, mother, spouse, children, brothers, sisters, yes, even one's own self, cannot be my disciple. Jesus is not demanding us at all to push away those whom we are most inclined to embrace, whom we really love. It is not rejecting family value. Rather, discipleship demands us to watch out for the priority of our hearts. If we love our family more than God, or if we put anything, even our very lives, above God. Secondly, Jesus says, whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. The cross Jesus carried was the cross of death, the cross of suffering, not because he deserved to die, but because he was willing to pay the price of the sinful world to make things right between God and God's beloved children. Each individual is responsible for the consequences of their own choices in life, and it was not fair for Jesus at all. However, Jesus paid the price of our guilt and our shame for us to have second and third and many chances to live our lives in God. So bearing our cross means bearing our pain in life. Bearing our cross means not giving up on following Jesus' way and obeying God even in our painful moment, even in our loss, in facing the tragedies, the trials, or griefs of our lives. Thirdly, Jesus says, so therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions. The Message Bible translated this as, simply put, if you are not willing to take what is dearest to you, whether plans or people, and kiss it goodbye, you cannot be my disciple. 2 parables between verses 28 and 32 help us understand better what Jesus means. The first story is about someone who intends to build a new house. If we wish to build a new house, the first thing we need to do is to sit down and estimate the cost to see whether we have enough resources to finish the project. We cannot break ground on the first day as soon as we have a plan. And my initial thought about this parable were a building project might signify our commitment to Jesus and invite us to count the cost if we can afford the cost of discipleship until we finish our race. However, as giving up is not an option, I believe it's more about our willingness and readiness to make the journey of becoming Jesus' disciples, even when its cost is high, letting go of or altering our own plans and timelines. Whether we finish a project or not, it might be less important because our failure is not the end of the story, because Jesus already changed our story with the final victory if we choose to follow Jesus. Therefore, the important question is if we are willing and ready to follow Him at all of our hearts and mind, even when the price would be ridiculed or beaten, we are beaten by the gravity of culture and human nature. And the second story is about the king who is going out to battle. The king would decide whether he could wage this war or he would need to make peace for the sake of his own people. Again, it's about our willingness and preparedness for our journey of discipleship, even when the situation may drag us into a place that we do not want to go, like an unwanted battle or wilderness in life. Maybe giving up all our possessions is not limited to material possessions or power, but giving up our precious things for God's kingdom. I borrowed today's title, The Almost Christian, from John Wesley's sermon, one of the founders of Methodism. He delivered over 40,000 sermons in his lifetime by traveling many thousands of miles around Britain on horseback. His sermon, The Almost Christian, was preached in 1741 at St. Mary's in Oxford to a challenging audience. What I mean by a challenging audience is his friend told him that he would not be well received by no means at St. Mary's in his preaching. But he delivered the message anyway, and John differentiated between almost Christian and altogether Christian. Almost Christians are those who are honest and pay attention to truth and justice in the world. They expect love and assistance from one another in a community and put their effort into living peaceably with all people. They use means of grace in the house of God, worshiping and participating Holy Communion on a regular basis. They make use of family prayers and private prayers sincerely. They have a real desire to serve God and to do God's will. However, they also claim their credit for all they do and how far they went to serve and love. While altogether Christians go extremely beyond and above all these practices, their hearts are preoccupied with the love of God and the love of our neighbors. They cannot stop learning and studying about God's word, and at the same time, they cannot stop living out their faith, even amidst pain and loss in facing tragedies, trials, and grief of life, because they desire nothing but God. Jesus is enough, and they want nothing else or nothing more. So for me, it sounds like another level of faith in our journey. And throughout August, while wrestling with these difficult texts in the Gospel of Luke, I felt the Spirit nudges and calls us to level up our faith in this new and challenging season. I sense the Spirit is working in and among us by kindling a fire, igniting our passion in many ways in our community. I sense God is preparing us, each of us, to be ready to choose Jesus' side on our discipleship journey together, no matter what it would cost. At the crossroad in our life, we make important life decisions. About 10 years ago, when I was wrestling and discerning my call to ministry in seminary, I once attended to the seminar about the ordination process in the United Methodist Church with a group of students searching for their next steps. Lots of information was shared, but I still remember one question that the pastor who offered the session asked us: is ministry your first choice in your life? As ministry is demanding and challenging, it should be our first choice. It should not be the second or third choice we make because nothing else worked in our lives. The question invited me to look into my heart deeply, examine my pure motivation, and help me to make my life decision with my whole heart. And I believe today's text asks us the same question to each of us. Is Jesus your first choice? Or is Jesus your second choice because your first choice did not work out? Life itself is already demanding, and the journey of discipleship, following Jesus and living out our calling to love is more challenging and demanding. We cannot handle it unless we fully commit ourselves. Count the cost first, and then make your choice. There is no such a half and half bowl for both noodles to have in our faith journey. There is no such Sunday Christian. There is no such almost Christian. Christians are Christian. Disciples are disciples. So what would your discipleship journey look like in this coming season? I pray for you and me that God may guide our steps as we fully commit ourselves to love God and love others as God has loved us first. And God may fill our hearts with abundant joy along the way. Amen. Thank you so much for worshiping with us today in this online space. Our life is challenging, but the good news is that we do not need to walk alone. We have Jesus who loves us more than we can imagine, who calls us to love with each other. Let us go and stay in God's love and God's grace and God's peace and be the church in this hurting world until we meet again next week. Amen.